So what we've been doing with our pages is really simple. So, I mean, we've been keeping our pages as simple as possible. Um, but there's some stuff that you really want to have on each page that we haven't bothered with. So, for example, we're going to have a menu page that lists the options. And like each of these other pages we've been looking at, um, they want to have a way of returning you to the menu when you're done. So like in a footer, you want to have like, click here for the main menu or something like that. Um, and I could add that to each one of these pages. There's only 3 of them right now, but I'm going to end up with probably 10 or 15 separate pages here, and manually editing that blurb of content to each one is not the most efficient thing, because if I want to change that later on, that means I have to change all my pages. And then some other stuff that I might want to have on each of these pages, we were talking about over the break, you might want to have like a link to a style sheet for the whole website and a link to some JavaScript code that gets installed on each page. You might want to have a standard navigation bar, which is content in the HTML that's duplicated on each separate page of the site. And you only want to have one copy of all of that stuff so that if you change it in one place, all of the pages on your site get that change. So just like when you're doing object-oriented programming, you define a parent class that has information that you know about all of your subclasses. It's the same idea with Jinja templates. So you write a class, a subclass that extends a parent class, and then everything that's defined for the parent gets inherited by the subclass, by the child. And then if you want to do something special in the child that you don't do for all of the subclasses, you can override that part of the parent. And so what we want to do basically is in our templates, I'm going to make a new template and I'm going to call this default. And this is going to be my parent template that all the other templates inherit from. And the idea here is really simple. You put whatever HTML you want in the parent, and then you can mark chunks of the HTML as being named blocks. So for example, this title here, I want to have that be a named block that I can override in my children. So everything up to here is the same, but this one here is going to be a block called title. And then it's going to run up to this end block here. And then here inside the body, what I'm going to have is an H1, and then I'm going to start a block for the header. And then the header by default will just be the word header. I can leave this empty too if I want. And then the content goes under the header. And then let's go ahead and have a footer as well. And then my default footer is going to say return to anchor href equals main menu. Okay. And I'll come back to this too. So now I have blocks for the title, the header, the content, and the footer. And most of the pages, I'm going to leave this footer alone. Let me go ahead and put a paragraph there. So I'm going to have the same footer on most of my pages. I want to move that paragraph tag inside of there. Okay. But then on the main page, I'm going to override it because I don't want to have a link to the main page on the main page. Okay. So we're going to put a horizontal rule and then a paragraph at the bottom. And then if I want to look at the default, I could write an endpoint for it. But what I want to do is I want to change my print instructor list to extend this default page. And in order to do that, what I do is I add an extends directive at the top. So this extends default.html. That should be curly bracket. So that extends default HTML. And this is just a singleton tag. Most of the ones we've looked at, you like start something and end something, like you start a block and end a block, or you start a for statement and you end a for. This one is just a singleton tag that says you inherit from the default. And then I don't have to repeat any of this because it's already in the default. All of this stuff up to here, that's in the default. But here I'm going to specify this is going to be my block title. I'm going to fill in this thing for my block title. And I'm going to end my block. So basically, when you take this together, if you look at the default, all of this stuff up to here comes before the block title. And then this whole thing is the block title. And then all of this stuff comes after the title block. And so it's going to do that here as well. It's going to put all that stuff up until the title block, all that HTML, and then it's going to include this thing here instead of the default title block. And then all the stuff up to here. And then I have my block header. So there's my header text. And block. And then all of this stuff is my content. And then I'm going to end my block content. And then I'm not going to override, oops, I'm sure that should be end block. And then I'm not going to override my footer. So it's just going to use the default footer after the block content. So let's go ahead and load this and see what it looks like. So this is print instructor list. So here's print instructor list, and I'm going to do 122 again. Oh, I have to reload it. Hold on. Restart the web server. And reload. And I got a server error. So I need to fix. I have an unexpected closing curly bracket somewhere. I would have thought that would have been expected. So let me look at my default here for a second. I'm not seeing where I have an extra. It says block title. Oh, it's right here. There. Okay, let's try it again. It is a little picky. Okay, so now I have a different one. It's looking for end block here. That should be end block. There we go. All right. So now it's got it returned to main menu here. And if I click it, it takes me to the main menu endpoint, which doesn't exist yet. But I'm going to do the same thing for my print instructor lists. So this is going to be extends default.html and then block title end block and then block header end block block content end block. And I lost my UL somewhere. So let me put my UL back in here. And then I'm not going to override my footer. So that should be everything. So let's go ahead and look at print instructor lists. Okay. And then we have one more to do. So let's do select instructor list to print. So that's gonna extends. And yeah, it's more work to set it up, but it's going to make my life easier later on when I want to change stuff. And here's our content. And that runs all the way up to here. And I'll use the default footer. So here's my select instructor for print. Let me reload. So we'll do select instructor list for print. And we'll select 233Y and 234A, which I haven't put anybody in. Okay.